The true state of the books. This issue of costings was a service offered to the opposition, which it's just up to the opposition to take advantage of or not.
Let's hear from Bob Katter on this before I go to Peter Beattie. And you've heard the costings arguments. Now you've heard you've been in private meetings where you've heard the coalition describe to you why the Treasury costings aren't appropriate. So where do you end up with this?
I can't help but be a bit naughty. The young lady asked about the $1,000 million promise. Well, the other people gave $340 million. I mean, we've established who we're dealing with there, who they are. It's just a matter of establishing the price. And I'm sorry, we've established the price. That's about the difference that we're talking about. But let me make a serious point. No, this is a serious point. You know, I have watched for 20 years the corruption of government in the sense that all they spend the money on is buying votes. There's no infrastructure, there's no development, there's nothing. Now, you know, I have to pay a very great tribute to the Rudd government because for the first time in 20 years, I saw a government, the broadband rollout, the national energy grid rollout, there's no votes in either of those things for them. They are a good thing for this country, a great thing for this country. And they undertook both those things knowing that there were no votes in it for them.
Are there three votes?
Well, we'd finished the election, and within 1 week of the election, we were out there again buying votes. The young lady's question was a very good one. Within 1 week of the election, but don't you differentiate between one side or the other. They both were doing it. There was just a difference in how much they were paying. That was all.
The point is the difference was $700 million. That's quite a lot of money.
All right, so it's good to buy it with $340 million, Tony. You're saying it's all right to buy it for $340 million. Look, there was a government there for a little while, a little tiny while, that did not go out buying votes. Every day, Albanese said that in the House. He was very proud to be associated with a government of that type. I'm paying him a very fine compliment. They deserve that compliment. There are other areas, the mining tax, which I thought was a disastrous mistake.
Peter Beattie.
I think to come back to your question.
Okay. I'm going to move on. We've got other issues to handle. The ones that Bob Katter will want to talk to. The next question is from Mandy Pfeiffer.
Yes, a question for Mr Katter. Without the introduction of subsidies and tariffs to assist farmers, are we at risk of losing our major agricultural industries to foreign competition? And if it is not through subsidies and tariffs, what will or should the government do to help our farmers compete on the world market?
Nick, we should call that a Dorothy Dixon. We know that's not your name. But we'll throw it to Bob Katter.
The OECD produces the figures. Any person here can go and get off the OECD. You know, and Nick keeps talking about no subsidy or tariffs. Well, I wish Nick would preach to the European countries or America or Japan or China. Now, I'll give you the figures. The figures last time I looked were 49%. The OECD countries, a third of the world's population, enjoy a subsidy tariff level of 49%. We, under the OECD figures, enjoy a subsidy tariff level of 6%. Now, I mean, Nick is an intelligent person. Does he seriously believe that Australian farmers are 43% better than their competitors?
Yeah,
well,
yes,
I got news for you, Nick. We ain't. And it is very cruel of you to say that we are. Because, and I'll give you the ugly figures, because they've been asked for. Our cattle numbers are down 20%. Our sheep numbers are down 50%. Our sugar, we're closing 6 mills every 10 years, and there's only 20 mills to go, then we'll have no sugar industry at all. And the dairy industry is down 20% on manufactured items and 10% on milk. Now, that's a great record, Nick, you had as a government. A great record. That's what you did to rural Australia in your years there. Now, let me just conclude on this point. Some 6 or 7 years ago, this country became, thanks to the quarantine decisions of Nick's government, we became a net importer of pork. 4 years ago, we became a net importer of fruit and vegetables. Last year, we became a net importer of seafood. And I don't care what set of statistics you want to look at, within 14 years, we'll be a net importer of food. Now, that is the result of the policies of both the big parties. And they're giving no ground on it at all. So you're watching the shutdown of agriculture in this country. They've already closed manufacturing. Now they're going to finish off agriculture. And 3 months ago, they had a pretty fair shot at mining as well. Be proud of yourselves, the major parties of Australia.
Bob Katter, a quick response. A quick response on this, and we don't need to go too far into it, but have either of the major parties, have Julia Gillard or Tony Abbott, offered you anything on tariffs or subsidies?
You know, it would be improper for me at this point of time, and I know that... No, please. You know, if you're in negotiations with people and you race out of the room and you start blabbing around the place, what's in those negotiations, then I don't think that I'm a negotiator, a fair negotiator. I thought what Wilkie did in disclosing that $1,000 million offer, it may have been a very bad thing that Tony Abbott did there, but to go out and divulge completely what was the private discussions, I don't think any person with integrity would act along those lines.
I just want to hear from Nick Mitchell first. Is tariff protection and subsidies to Australian farmers on the table as far as you're concerned?
Well, I'm not involved in the negotiations, but I would doubt very much that the Liberal Party would be embracing such a course. The great thing about the Liberal and Labor parties is that over the last 20 years, they have freed up this economy. And the reason why this is one of the most successful and richest economies in the world is because both parties have freed up. These people all seem to want to pay more for their food. You put tariffs on food, you won't do anything to help farmers, and you will all pay more for food. I was industry minister as we wound down manufacturing tariffs. The manufacturing industry in this country was withering under the vine with the highest protection you could possibly put on it. Tariffs won't do anything for anybody. They are a disaster. You ought to read Bert Kelly, one of the great farmers from South Australia in the federal parliament, who argued this case against tariffs for years and years. And it is one of the great things about this country that we have an incredibly competitive, efficient agricultural industry not protected by tariffs. There are other ways that governments can help farmers. I'm a great supporter of R&D, research and development support, drought support, all those sorts of things, more infrastructure. But tariffs would be a disaster.
So if it is on the table, they better take it off.
I'm a humble backbencher.
Christine Milne.
One of the really great things about the fact...
Rebecca Huntley.
Well, I mean, from a public opinion point of view, the issue of food security and the fact that we're importing more than exporting is an issue for people, and it's particularly in the last 18 months. However, at the same time, people want cheap food. Exactly. So there is, I mean, if we're going to have a debate about this, there's actually conflicting views.
You know, I haven't asked for a tariff subsidy. I wish Nick would have, looked at what I was asking for, and I didn't ask for any tariff or subsidies. I just want to give you one quick statistic. And Nick said these marvellous policies. In 1987, 86% of the passenger motor vehicles in Australia were made in Australia. 86%, Nick. As a result of Mr Keating's and your policies, now only 21% are made in Australia. And is there a single person here that believes we'll have a car industry in 20 years in Australia?
Yeah, I do, Bob. I live in South Australia. I live in a state
It's gone from 86% to 21%, and he is sitting here seriously telling us that they're suddenly going to turn around and go the other way. Nick, you've got to be judged on your outcomes, my friend, and unfortunately the record reads ugly for you in agriculture and ugly for you in manufacturing. And I'll come back to the cost of food in a moment.
No, you can't because we've run out of time. I'm sorry to say. Please thank our panellists, Nick Minchin, Christine Milne, Bob Katter, Peter Beattie and Rebecca Huntley. OK. Next week we have master storyteller Bryce Courtney, and there's a whole novel to be written about what we've just seen tonight, I suspect. He'll be joined by members of the government and the opposition, whoever they are, and we'll leave you tonight with a musical video tribute to our Prime Ministers in Waiting by Paul James. You'll find the extended mix, and you'll want to see that on our website, and perhaps if you watch it often enough, you'll be able to decide who should get the job. Good night.